Hello, parents. Welcome to the Masterful Parenting Podcast. I'm Ann Alvarez, parent coach, school counselor, and mom of two. Do you struggle with your relationship with your kids because you carry childhood pain? Do you get triggered by your child's behavior, become irrational, and maybe even yell at your children? Maybe you want to be a better parent, but you don't know how. Instead of repeating old patterns, you want to heal your pain, become more aware of your child's needs, feel connected to your kids, and learn the tools to communicate better so you can truly enjoy your parenting. If you are ready to heal your childhood pain, raise healthy, connected, and happy kids, and end the cycle of parenting with pain, then join me. Our kids deserve it, and we can do this. Let's go. Hello, parents. Welcome to the Masterful Parenting Podcast. I am so excited today because I have a special guest. Her name is Katrina Batey. She is a parent coach and consultant for parents navigating the challenge of their children's big emotions and behaviors. She has two daughters, one of whom has an anxiety disorder called selective mutism. She was a primary school teacher and now holds a master's degree in the psychology and neuroscience of mental health, qualifications in trauma-informed coaching, and mental health coaching. She works with parents to support their emotional and their children's emotional well-being, both during the day and during the night, using a technique called the Goulding Process. So welcome, Katrina. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited because I want to know about the Goulding process. But I'm going to go through the questions and then
Mhm.
you can add all your expertise. Okay,
Sure.
what do you think is the most valuable thing parents need to know about their kids?
Yeah, so in my opinion, the most helpful thing that changes the way parents understand their children when I'm working with them is actually a sort of basic neuroscience principle, which is a bit about the brain and how the brain responds to threats. And that, though, when I say threat, I mean an actual threat, but also a perceived threat, that might not actually be there, but that child thinks is there. And when we talk about threats, I guess we also include like anticipating threats, thinking that there might be a threat coming up as well. So this is something that when I was a teacher, I remember having training on, and it completely changed the way I understood children when they were having big emotional reactions, which, as you know, often looks like what we might say poor behavior or bad behavior or challenging behavior. But actually, what we're talking about, I want to say all the time, but I don't know if you can go that far necessarily. But what you're actually talking about is a child who is experiencing like a fight, flight, freeze response because their brain thinks they're under threat. Um, so when the brain thinks that something is threatening, the amygdala lights up and kicks our body into being able to deal with the threat. So we might get aggressive and angry because that's one way to deal with the threat, is going into a fight response. We might try and run away from the threat. That looks like literally running away, or we might freeze and hope that that threat disappears. So in my daughter's case with selective mutism, that's what you see. If you talk to her, she'll freeze and wait for you to go away because her brain's thinking, I'm not safe, and this is my way of dealing with it. So that's what's really interesting and I think important to understand about when we think we're under threat, is that the more logical parts of our brain, the higher evolved prefrontal cortex and all of the thinking, logical, reasoning bits of the brain can't work properly. And they don't work as well in children anyway, because it's not so well developed. But when we feel under threat, we can't make rational decisions like, is this a big deal? Should I react to this? Can I think through this and choose a better choice? They can't do it. And nor can we when we're having that kind of reaction.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That really, really totally makes sense of what's happening with the brain and how the responses of that. So, how does this relate to parents and what role do parents play?
So I think there's a lot in this question. I
Yeah.
think, first of all, what role parents play is in knowing this and trying to understand their children and how their children work. That's one huge part. Um, when we talk about feeling under threat, we often think about, a physical danger and trying to save our life, but we all are motivated by social things as well. So social threats are a huge thing, like, you know, being slighted by a friend or feeling like you've not achieved very well and what will everyone think of you. These are huge threats to people. So as parents, the role we play in supporting our children is to try and work out what really drives our children, what social drivers are most important to our children. Do they need status? Do they need certainty? Do they need autonomy and to be in control? Do they need connection? Do they need a sense of fairness? Those are five big drivers. Um, and also our role is to try and notice what other triggers make our children feel threatened. So some children and a lot of adults have, sensory sensitivities, for example, and they can tolerate sounds more or less than others and things like that. So that's one part. But then I think a huge thing that I think all parents should know, because it helps us to feel better, is that those things, responding to threats, we're doing that all the time as well. And when our child is having a big emotional or behavioral reaction, that makes our brains go, oh no, something's wrong. So a lot of the time when our children's behavior, let's say, is irritating or difficult to deal with or really pushes our buttons, it's because our brain is going, something's not right here. So we deserve to sort of understand that we're not bad if we feel cross when our children are exhibiting something, like, I don't know, you're out in public and they're doing that thing and it's really embarrassing. That's natural, because our brain's
Yes.
going, oh no, people are going to judge me, that's
Yes.
entirely normal too. So part
Hmm.
of this is our role is forgiveness, self-forgiveness,
Yes.
but also when we understand how brains respond to threats and how to calm the brains down, we know then that, people always say you can't pour from an empty cup. You've got to put your own oxygen mask on first. This is actually why it's so important, in my opinion, because we have to calm our brains down first before we can calm our children's down, because otherwise we're going to act in a way that isn't actually the best way to do it. If our
Yes.
brain's still under fight, flight, freeze, we're going to be getting cross, we're going to be shutting down, or we're going to just be ignoring it, which actually doesn't really help the threat. It actually
Hmm.
is just a sort of safety behavior or something. So, first and foremost, not just because we deserve to be calm, we actually should be calming down our brains before we try to calm our children down, so that we can do it in the best way possible.
Yes.
And we just deserve that space to be
Yes.
calming and regulating our emotions as well. But I also love the fact that if we're doing this and we're showing our children, but also teaching them and showing them and being that role model, that is so important.
It's so, so good. Like I always say that we cannot problem solve when
No.
our brain is in that kind of state.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to calm the brain down, because not logical thinking is out the window
Yeah.
when you're going right with our
Yeah.
kids too, with us and with our
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
kids. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's no way we can problem solve. So the first thing we have to do is get ourselves get the brain calm, right? Is
Yeah,
what you're saying. Get the
exactly.
brain calm. Okay,
Yeah.
so how do we do that? How do we get the brain calm?
Well, that's the big question. Yeah, how do we calm brains down? Um, for kids or ourselves? What
Let's
would
do
you like?
parents first, because parents need to calm down.
Yeah. So parents come first. Yeah. First
Yeah.
and foremost is the parents. Okay. So obviously, they are going to be different approaches for different people. That's a big thing as well. So what we need to do is work out what actually works for us. But in general terms, what we need to do is re-engage a different part of the nervous system. So when we're doing like fight, flight, our brains go, oh no, people are judging me, or whatever we're thinking. The sympathetic nervous system is powered up, releasing cortisol, the stress hormone, and powering us up to escape the danger. So we have to do the techniques that activate the opposite side of that nervous system, and both sides are they're not a conscious choice. You don't choose to go into fight, flight, freeze. We're not in control of that, but we can choose to do things to activate the other half, which is the part that shows the brain there is no danger. You can calm down, power down, stop releasing the cortisol. So the parasympathetic nervous system is where it's all at. So in general terms, people talk a lot about breathing exercises, but this is exactly what a breathing exercise does. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system. A breathing technique that I really like is called the 4-7-8. So would you like me to explain?
Yes, I'm
Yeah, so
excited.
4-7-8 breathing is really good because you are exhaling for longer than you are inhaling. And that's a key bit for engaging this part of the nervous system, the calming down side. So we breathe in for 4 through our noses. We hold for 7, doesn't have to be 7 seconds, but whatever feels right. So in for 4, hold for 7, and exhale through the mouth for 8 of the, whatever you're counting. And what's great about this one is because it's like you have to count a bit, you're also distracting the brain and able to re-engage that thinking logical part as well. So yeah, that's a really powerful one. People like different types of breathing exercises. Some people like to do it on an app or so on. That's a really good one. Just taking a minute, or mindfulness, or just being present, just taking a break. It's whatever works, really. For me, it's breathing. What works for you, Anne?
Um, I I do breathing.
Yeah, yeah,
I talk to myself in my head. I'm like, don't personalize. It's okay.
mm.
I have a teenager now. He's 13, so he likes to argue a lot. So when he's arguing with me, I'm like, don't personalize it. He's
Yeah,
a teenager. Or I will take a break. I will say, I don't want to get
yeah,
mad. So I'm going to actually leave. And then I want to talk about
yes,
this later,
yes. I
because I
love
need
that.
to take that break. I need to like
Mhm.
not hear the arguing
Yeah,
anymore and just leave and then come back and say, okay, let's talk about this, right?
yeah.
So that's what I do. But I do actually really like the breathing as well. I just find my
Mhm.
body feels better because
Mhm.
I say to parents, you can feel it in your body. Like for me, I can
Oh,
feel it in my
yes.
body. My body's tense, right?
Yes,
And I'm like, okay, I'm starting to get angry. Like I need to calm myself down.
I
Um,
know.
yeah. But I was gonna say the 4-7-8. So are you holding your breath for 7 seconds then?
Not
Okay.
necessarily 7 seconds. I mean, when I started doing this, it was a bit shorter than 7 seconds, but as you continue to practice, you can do it for longer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then do you repeat it until you
Yeah.
start to
So at
feel?
least 5 times round is recommended.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the thing that I love about breathing that I always tell everyone is that also when if you're just starting this, what you want to do is do these breathing exercises like throughout the day, not just at that time when you really need it, because as we know, you're not going to be thinking logically. So you actually need to build it in as like a practice, don't you? So it
Hmm.
becomes habitual and it becomes natural. So that when you need to calm down, your brain goes, oh, well, then breathing helps my brain. So, it becomes more of a natural response. So, I've learned this one that one of the things I see in my daughter is I try to go straight to when she's feeling anxious. Right, come on, let's breathe. But she's like, no,
She's not
because
ready.
she's not ready. We haven't done it as a thing during the day that's just a nice, pleasant thing to do. So her brain will start associating it with feeling anxious, which isn't
Yes.
what we want. We want her brain to associate it with feeling calm and then bring it in when needed, when anxious.
Yeah, I do say to parents that we really have to gauge what our children are telling us. And
Yes.
some kids need more time to uh to calm down. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they just need your presence. They just need you sitting with them,
100%.
right? While they're
Yes.
going through their moment. So we allow them to express their moment, have their moment.
Yes.
And
Yeah, exactly.
then,
I mean,
yeah,
I
when
don't know
they're
about you,
ready,
that's one of the biggest things I've learned, and I know we'll talk a bit more about this, but is not being scared of them having big feelings, because feelings are valid, right? Of course, all feelings are valid, and we don't want to label the scared, angry, those ones. They're not bad feelings. They're telling us something, aren't they? So
or
I used to sort of feel anxious myself, like, oh no, she's scared. What am I going to do about it? And like redirect her, distract her, try and shut down that feeling. But as you say, what you want to do is just be there while they're having it.
yes. I
Mm.
think parents, I'm guilty of this too in the early parenting years. We want to rush to problem solving. We want to make
Yes.
things better for them right
Hmm.
away.
Hmm.
But really, the key is just to be with them and allow them to express, right?
Hmm.
Uh, I'm 100% in agreement with you. Like our
Yeah.
feelings are valid. All feelings are valid. All. And they're
Yes.
part of our human experience, and we have to express them. I think in society, we have been taught not to express, and
Hmm.
it's caused a lot of problems mental health wise,
Yes.
right? And
Yeah.
so we have to reverse that. We have to change that way of thinking. But yes, feelings are good. Express
Hmm.
them. It,
Yes, exactly.
yeah.
I mean, I really feel quite strongly exactly what you just said, that when the way I was raised back in, the 1980s, it was, good feelings only, good vibes only. Let's like stop crying. It's fine. Let's carry on, you know? Yeah.
People are uncomfortable with
Yes.
what they think of as negative emotions, but they're not negative emotions. They're just
Mhm.
emotions,
Just
right?
emotions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we don't want to shut them down, because I should say that suppressing is a really bad, there's lots of studies that show that you've got two big types of emotion regulation strategies. One of them is cognitive reappraisal, which is, once you can think logically, trying to find the sort of silver lining, and finding good in adversity, which is consistently shown to have great outcomes on mental health. But the opposite, suppressing emotions, is consistently found to lead to poorer mental health outcomes.
100%.
Mm.
100%. Because you have no outlet. And
Yeah.
then all of that lives inside of you, right? So yeah, that is so good. Okay. I want to get to what tips you have for calming children's brains down and showing them that they're safe. And then maybe you can talk about your daughter, her anxiety.
Oh yeah, I could talk about her forever.
Okay.
um, well, yeah. So just like we've talked about, the first thing is not trying to skip through to the logic, not trying to problem solve. We know we have lots of empathy, especially for our children, so we
Yes.
want to go and help them first, but we don't like. We're trying to skip through the stages. So the
Mhm.
first thing is just being there. So connection and empathy are where it's all at. There's a 3 R's approach that I really like, which is regulate, relate, and reason. I think that's a great sort of way to remember for us adults. So first we regulate, we try to calm the brain down, try and show the brain that it's safe. Relate, which is just showing that we understand. So, or I love the phrases that we don't even need to necessarily know what they're so upset about at the moment, and they might not even know themselves. They might not be ready to tell them. But by relating, we don't have to say. Sometimes the phrase is like, "I understand that you're sad," or "I can see that you feel like this." But I love as well, even just saying like, "I can see you're having a lot of big feelings right now, and that's okay." We don't necessarily need to always label them, or I just love saying, "I'm here for you, I've got you." That's all we need to do at that point. And then the reason is, once they're calm, which, as you know, sometimes takes a long time, which is also okay, that's when we say, okay, so what was going on there? What could we do to help you better next time? Or what will we do next time that's the situation? But I think we underestimate sometimes how long it can take for them to be ready to sort of process through that, you know.
Yes.
And it isn't necessarily all like we do these things all at that time. Maybe we come back to it a day later.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I have two very different children. And we've talked about Zan, children have very different personalities. One of mine always wants to be cuddled, to be stroked. That's what she wants. The other one often wants to be left alone. It is all about working out what each child wants. And I think there's a big place for not assuming that we know. So I
Right.
often, offer things or ask them what would be helpful. I try to use like coaching for my children. So what could we do here? What would you like? Or would you like a cuddle? Would you like to just sit quietly? Because if a child likes to be stroked, they might not always like to be stroked as well. So it's about adapting and knowing, giving them the power to speak and advocate for themselves as well.
Yes, yes.
Mm.
Okay, I love that. I just love that. Okay, so when your daughter is having anxiety, so you believe in like the connecting, the empathy, regulate, relate, and reason. So you're going to get her to be regulated first, right? And then you're
Yeah.
going to say, I understand how you feel. And then you're going to go to how can we make things better, right? This is a
Mm.
model I use. I
Yeah,
love
it's
it.
great,
I love it.
isn't it? It
It's
is so
so
great.
good. This is
Yeah.
like for me, this is relational parenting, right? Because
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, you're really involving your child in in the way to make things better, right? And then they feel empowered, which is
Yeah.
amazing,
And
right?
supported too, right?
And
And not
supported.
judged.
They're
Yeah.
not judged. Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay,
Yeah.
so what's the biggest thing that has helped you deal with your daughter's anxiety? Is it this method or
Or
what?
just a lot of different things. I mean, I think understanding what anxiety really means and what's going on in the brain has been huge. And I teach everybody that I work with, if they don't already know, that, for example, understand that this is not a conscious choice
Yes.
that's really important for parents to understand. It's really important for me to understand. Um, I think there's just been lots of different lessons to learn along the way. And one of them, I talk about it in terms of anxiety, but this would relate to any sort of challenge that you're trying to help your child with, which is that I've learned a lot about what progress does and doesn't look like and sort of reframed my understandings. That's been really important. Like when you understand a bit about neuroscience and neural pathways and things like that, you understand, say for my daughter, if she can't speak to people, that doing one thing, let's say, for example, when she started school and she couldn't speak to her teachers because the level of anxiety was so high, it literally closes the throat up, so it's very high alert brain state. So it was a huge thing for her to start tugging on her teacher's jumper without being able to speak, even getting somebody's attention, huge. So the first thing I learned there was that looks tiny to other people, right? As a tiny thing, maybe some other people wouldn't even notice it. For her, that's an enormous step and deserves
Yes.
massive celebrations. That's the first thing. But then also, you might think, I mean, I was working with a parent a couple of weeks ago about this similar issue. You sort of think, right, she's done that. What's the next step? But actually, that thing needs to be overlearned over and over again because you're trying to rewrite neural pathways, aren't you? And
Yes.
make that took a lot of effort. We want to have her do that so many times that doesn't require any effort anymore because it's overwritten what used to be there.
Yes. Yes. I think that is so amazing. I talk a lot about the same as you is the baby steps. Because I'm a school counselor, I deal with anxiety. That's like my number one thing that I deal with my teenagers. And we take baby steps, like really, really baby steps, right? When we're dealing with anxiety. And you're right, celebrate those baby steps because that's accomplishment. We're moving, right? We're not staying where we are. So I think
Yeah,
that is so, so, so good.
yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much, Katrina. Like I am so like I've learned a lot. I love brain science. This is
Yeah,
my
me
jam.
too.
I love it. I love it. So I really appreciate um, what you've shared today. Do you want to just tell our audience like where they can reach you if they want to work with you, how they can
Yeah,
find you?
absolutely. I mean, I'd love to talk a bit more about one of a specific technique I've been using as
Oh,
well.
yes,
Um,
yes.
yes, I know
Can you
you're
do a
curious to
brief,
hear.
yeah, can you do a
Yeah,
brief?
so this is a really beautiful connective technique that parents can use themselves at home, which is so empowering for the parents because we can often feel really powerless, stuck in
Yes.
a long waiting line for services and so on. So this is something parents can do. And I now work with parents, having done it myself with my own daughter. It is a technique for talking to the subconscious mind. It's completely risk-free, completely simple, and it rewrites neural pathways to make them feel calmer, more confident, braver, better regulated, happier,
Yes.
better self-esteem. It's just incredible the results I've seen. I've had children who used to like bite through the cuffs of his jumpers once a week. Mum was having to buy a new jumper, doesn't bite through his jumpers anymore. I've
Nice.
had another
Okay.
family who couldn't go out anywhere because it was, well, I mean, they chose not to because it was too stressful for everyone involved because the meltdowns were so
Yes.
intense and so frequent, you know. And this often is also the case with, you know, children with a neurodivergent condition. So
Yes.
this is a great method for anybody who's got big emotions or poor self-esteem. My daughter is so much braver, so much happier, has talked to so many new people since starting this method. So
Wow.
it's
Okay. So
just
what's the
been
method?
incredible.
What's it called? What do we do?
So it's really it's a beautiful way of just speaking to them with it's a very set process, but it's how we talk to their brain while they're sleeping so that their conscious brain can't sort of get in the way because their conscious brain has got, you know, the self beliefs and things in
Yes.
it and going, well, wait, I'm not, this isn't what I do because I don't speak, for example, in the case of my daughter, but the subconscious brain can't argue back. So we're just sort of reprogramming it to have like really lovely positive self beliefs. And what you
Wow.
see is just change throughout the day. It's
And
amazing.
so so it's done while our child's sleeping.
Hmm. Just a couple
And then
minutes.
is this the Goulding process?
Yeah. So it's
Wow.
just a couple of minutes a night. It does take commitment because you have to do it for, you know, you don't just do it once and then you're done. The repetition is part of why it really works. But yeah, so that's one way that I work with parents now
Love
is to do
that.
that. And I love it because the changes are incredible. But I also
So
work with parents to support their well-being. But what I found was that parents really want to know how to help their children.
yes,
So
yes,
that's, you know, it's a sort of two-pronged approach. What do you
yes.
need? What's your child need? And so yeah, so
Right.
that's me.
Wow, that's so exciting. Okay, so
Yeah.
how can people find you?
So I have a website. It's called takethewheelwellbeing.com. Take the wheel because, you know, for parents, it's about trying to take charge of it and saying, okay, something's not quite right here. Let's do something about this. And this is something that they can really do. Take the wheel well-being. I'm
Well-being.
on Instagram as Katrina underscore parent underscore coach. And yeah, so I always offer free half hours because sometimes people might want to do the Goulding process. Sometimes they want to have coaching sessions. It's all about working out what works best for anybody involved, you know? So
That's
yeah,
so amazing. Okay, that's so great. Thank you so much, Katrina
very
Batey.
welcome.
It was so nice to have you. And I just want to do a little recap for parents. So parents, it's not a conscious choice. Our children go through this fight or freeze. It is their brain's response to threat. Okay, so that's the first thing. And then the second thing, takeaway is that we can help calm our brains down. We can help our children calm their brains down. Katrina talked about regulate, relate, and reason. So we sit with our children until they're calm and we allow them to express their emotions. And then we can empathize and connect with them and then help involve them in the problem solving of what's happening with them. So thank you so much. The breathing. I love the 4-7-8. I'm going to try that. It sounds amazing. So thank you so much. Thank you, Katrina. And thank you, parents, for joining us. I will see you next time. Goodbye. If this podcast inspired, blessed, or changed you in any way, I would love for you to share this with your family and friends on your Instagram page and tag me at Masterful Parenting. And join my Masterful Parenting Facebook page or DM me for more parenting support. And I will meet you here real soon. Remember, be relational with your kids and you will see a change. Love to all you parents out there. Let's change the world one parent at a time.